Good evening, Daf Kuf Bet Amud Aleph. We are 33 lines from the top. We had just mentioned that Rav Huna had said that the halacha is according to Rabbi Yeshua ben Korha, and the halacha is also according to Rabbi Yehuda. And Rabbi Yosef didn't like it. What's the point of saying it? So we explained why he had said Rabbi Yeshua ben Korha. Now we're going to explain why he had said Rabbi Yehuda. So the question is, the halacha Rabbi Yehuda, what I need Rav Huna to teach me the halacha is according to Rabbi Yehuda. Why would I think it's pashut? Because mahloket b'achak stami, mahloket b'achak stam halachat stam. Whenever you have a mahloket in one location, and then another location, it says a stam mishnah, which means an anonymous mishnah without a name, according to that halacha, it must be to be done put that mishnah a second time without a name to show that we are posek, like the previously mentioned rabbi. So mahloket b'achak stam is mahloket between those two rabbis, and then one mishnah afterward elsewhere says it without saying names. It says the halacha to be posek according to the other one. So why would we need to teach me that Yehuda is the answer? Is according to him, if it's a case of mahloket al-Khasam, and therefore it should be obvious that it's according to him. Where is it? Mahloket Baba Kama, our location. Someone gave wool to a guy to dye it, and made it red and made it black. To make it red instead, and he made it black instead. Shahor is for Adam, red and then black, and then he made it red. Rabbi says you have to give him the value. Rabbi says, Rabbi says that you automatically have the lower hand, you have to pay the lower price to the guy. And the anonymous Mishnah, Baba Messiah says it's none. Any worker who doesn't do exactly what he's told, he has the lower hand. Whoever also backs out of a deal, also has the lower hand. So Rav Huna had to bring it down. He says, instead of the Mishnah, you might think since this is the concept there's no order in Mishnayot, therefore you would think maybe you might think it's a stam Mishnah and then the machloket, which wouldn't mean anything. The one says, what would Yosef answer? Why would Yosef say it's pashut? Right? Yosef was the one who didn't like it. He's like, why do I need this rabbi to teach me this? It's pashut. So why would he be pashut according to him? According to him, Yachi, that's the case. Right? If Yosef would say, no, what do you mean? How can you say inside the Mishnah in this scenario? Then you could say it in every scenario, and we never have a case of mahloket b'akaf stam, because then you could say maybe it's stam then mahloket. How does Guna explain? When do we say there's no order to the Mishnayot? When is there an order to Mishnayot? When it's two Mishnayot in the same Masechet, then you could have said that. But when there's two separate Masechtot, we say there is no order. What did Yosef say? I hear you. But Baba Kaman, Baba Masiyah, and the rest of Nizikin is considered one long Masechet, and therefore it can be flipped around. And therefore it can't be flipped around because it's one Masechet. A different answer. Because in Baba Masiyah I was mentioning halachot that we're posek like with a bunch of other things. Mentioning general halachot, and therefore maybe in that case not really a real stam mishnah, because it was just mentioning general halachot. Okay, someone gave his shliach money to buy him something. Told him to buy wheat, and he bought barley. Told him to buy barley, and he bought wheat. Tana had one Braita says, if the price went down, the shliach loses the money. The price goes up, the shliach makes the money. But then I had another Braita says, right, so that we see the shliach is koned. Another Braita says, if it goes down, it goes down for him. But if it goes up, they split it. So how do we fix the two Braitot? How do Meir, how do Bida? This first Braita says that it goes according to Shliach, goes according to Meir. Second Braita is according to Bida. How did it be Meir? The Hamish correct. First Braita says that Shliach gets both ways is because he holds it, according to the Meir, who holds it, changes the acquisition, changes ownership. So the Shliach was Konet. But Bida, Damar Shinu Konet. According to Bida, the second opinion is hold that Shliach is not Konet because change doesn't Konet. Matkith Rabbi Lazar, Mai. Maybe by the Meir, he said that change doesn't change anything is regarding to when the owner wants it, like the wool. But over here regarding commerce, he told him to buy business stuff like wheat or barley, or he told him to buy him a certain type of item, he didn't buy it. That's not something that's a change that he didn't want. Really, according to both Rabbeinu, but like I said, no stira. Kan la'achila. In the first bright where the agent keeps it is when he wanted to eat it. He wanted to use it. You bought the wrong item, it's your problem. Kan l'shora, but in the second bright talking about a case where you bought was for business, they split it. If it goes up, and the shliach takes the loss if it goes down. And the Eretz Yisrael, they laughed this explanation of Yochanan. According to Bida, via Rabbi Yochanan, how can the shliach acquire the item when the shliach is going against the owner's, the sender's request? Who told the owner of the seller that he should transfer it to the shliach's sender, yani to the sender? Right? Who said that the money should be transferred all to the, meaning the guy doesn't know when Reuven comes to buy from Shimon, he has no idea that Levi sent to Reuven to buy it for him. So why would the produce get transferred over to Levi for profit in that scenario? Why would it not go to the shliach? The Gemara says, "Matkita Rav Shmuel the if that's the case, then even week for week, who says if say he followed through his shlichut, why wouldn't it transfer over with that same mentality? Oh well, he didn't know that he's giving it over to the third party. Only the shliach should get it. You know, if he's doing exactly what he's supposed to do, that's a shliach, and the shliach is like the owner, and therefore it's a direct transfer. And I know this is true. Someone makes his property hekdesh. Someone makes himself erech the Bet HaMikdash, right? Erechin is someone saying the value of A, B, or C, or myself shall be to the Bet HaMikdash to pay nadi instead. And lo bechut ishto, the Bet HaMikdash does not take the clothing of the wife, but not the clothing of his children, and not also garments that he dyed for them. Also not shoes that he bought for them, meaning that Bet HaMikdash cannot take something that's already belonging or should be belonging to the wife and children. V'amai, how come not? Maybe over here we should say, who says that the dyer who's dyeing the wool is transferring over to the wife? Maybe it should still belong to the man who made everything belong to Bet HaMikdash, and it should not be transferred to the children. And rather, we must be saying the will be right? And therefore, we're saying it must be because when you're doing something for shlichut, it transfers over. So it transfers over to the wife and children. Hachanami said over here regarding the guy, if does the instructions, therefore it goes to the investor, the guy who sent the shliach. The Gemara says not a good proof. You know, differences by hekdesh. The reason why it doesn't transfer over for the children or the wife is because whoever makes something hekdesh, he's not trying to make the clothing hekdesh as well. Right, as matkif bizera, tifilav. If that's the case, when a person makes everything hekdesh, does that mean he's also trying to make his items, his tefillin hekdesh? Definitely not. Utnan, but yet we see in the Mishnah, hamagdish nechasav ma'alin lo tefillin. Someone says all his items are hekdesh. We have to check how much his tefillin cost. Whereas in true, da'ato she'adam al tefillin. Yes, his tefillin is considered part of it. He has in mind for it. Because when he's making everything, he's saying, I'm doing the mitzvah. Therefore, he wants to include everything. But however, he's not trying to make his wife and children's stuff be hekdesh because he knows it's going to cause problems. Try and explain that to your wife and kids. But we over here, we learned in the Hilchot of Erechin, making of now that everything should belong to the Bet HaMikdash. The Bet HaMikdash can make a security from those who are chayav in Erechin, meaning they go over to him, hey, we heard that you made a value, your $10,000 cow for Erechin, we're going to take $1,000 security deposit. Does the person have intention to make a security deposit on himself? Definitely not. Yet he still have to pay, whether or not he had that. So too, the children's clothing maybe also should be included. It's different. When a person is making his stuff hekdesh, he's as if he's transferring over his wife and children's stuff out. Right? He doesn't want yes, he has dot on everything of his, but when he's saying my stuff should be hekdesh, it's at that second he's also transferring out his wife and children's stuff outward. Okay. Hello, Kaya. Sadeh b'shem shehaviro. Someone buys the field, the name for his friend, for him, and kofinu to limkor. We don't force him to sell it. But if he says on condition that he'll sell it, kofinu to limkor, we force him to sell. What is going on? We'll explain right now. My kamar, what's going on? Amar sheshat, the following is going on. Hachi kamar. Halokeh sadeh b'haviro mechaviro b'shem resh chaluta. If someone buys his field from his friend in the name of the Resh Kaluta, which means Reuven goes over to Shimon and says, "Hey, I'm buying a field, but I'm buying it. Put the name as the buyer as the name of the chief rabbi." Now, obviously, I'm buying it, not the chief rabbi. But why am I doing it? Because I don't want people to protest the sale or try to outbid me. I'm telling them just to write on a document that the chief rabbi is buying it. En confino to Resh Galuta lemkor. We don't force the Resh Galuta, the chief rabbi, to write a document that the item really belongs to the buyer, right? Because right now the property is in his name. The imamar almenat, however, the buyer said to the seller, "I'm buying on a condition that the Resh Galuta will give me the deed." You do make the Resh Galuta write it. Marmor. We just quote the same thing. It sounds like that the buyer was able to acquire it. Let's say that this is against what Eretz Israel says, that what but who told the owner that the owner of the wheat should transfer over to the investor? Meaning, so to the same way we said earlier that maybe the transfer should not bypass the shliach to the investor, to the guy who sent the money, because the seller didn't know. Maybe over here should the same concept be over here, since the seller was told that it's being bought for the Resh Kaluta, maybe he doesn't know that Reuven's buying it for himself. Gemara says, that's not a question. Why? He says that no, when he told the guy, I'm buying it for Resh Kaluta, he specifically told them, I'm writing for the Resh Kaluta, but I'm really buying it for myself. Okay. So therefore there's no confusion. Let's see the second part. Someone told the seller, I'm buying it on condition that the Resh Kaluta will sell it to me. The Resh Kaluta we forced the Resh Kaluta to write the deed to him. Am I? Why? Maybe the Resh Kaluta can say, will you involve me in your business? I don't want this honor. I don't want the dishonor. Don't get me involved. How come the Resh Kaluta can't bow out? Really? So it's a good point. Why can't the Resh Kaluta bow out and say, don't get me involved? I don't write anything. We have to change it. We don't have to write the seller to make another deed. But he said on condition, you can force the seller to rewrite it. The rabbi said earlier in the Brayta, someone bought the field name of his friend, and we don't force him to sell it again. Right? They don't make him to make another deed. Pshita, of course. How would we be able to force him? You might say, he can tell the seller, you knew I was buying it for myself. And I was just writing it to the Resh Kaluta just to protect myself. And I would obviously not buy this if I was gonna, on the chance that I wouldn't be able to get a good deed. And therefore, I was hoping that you would write me another deed. And therefore, Kamash Malan, the seller can tell them in this scenario, if there was no condition made, listen, I thought you had your own business with the Resh Kaluta, and therefore, I thought that maybe you knew the chief rabbi and you were going to handle it with him privately. How am I supposed to know that you wanted me to do it? Therefore, I don't want to get involved. And therefore, now we explain the second half with the condition. If the guy said on condition that I want another deed, you can force him. Pshita, of course you have to force him if that was the condition. Mara explains, no, it's richa. Because the buyer had the witnesses while they're selling it. I want another deed in my name. Maybe my thing the seller can tell him, I thought you were saying to the witnesses that you wanted a second deed from the Rish Galuta. I thought that you were telling them that you were going to go to the Rish Galuta for a second one. Kamash Malan, therefore the Brayta teaches us the buyer can tell the seller, no, I specifically told the witnesses in front of you because I wanted you to give me another one, and therefore you can force him. Okay. Rav Kahana, you have Kitana. Rav Kahana one time bought set aside money for flax with the flax seller, and he bought some, but he left it there. He left the flax. The soft flax price jumped. The original owner sold it at a higher price, and he's like, okay, I'll give the money to Rav Kahana. He made free money. I thought coming to Rav. Kind of came from Rav. Ma'avit. What should I do? Is it can I go take the money, or does it look like a rebate? Right? If I'm just fronting the money and I made more money, it looks like I made the rebate. Or does it look like I paid for something, sold it, and made more money? I told him, because if when they sold it, they said to the buyer, this flax belongs to Rav Kahana, this shakol, go take it. But if they didn't mention it, then don't take it, because that looks like interest. Who is this according to? Because it goes according to, seemingly it goes according to the Eretz Israel, because they said because only in that scenario it doesn't work because they didn't mention it. But over here, if they're mentioning that it's being transferred over from one person to the next, it should work. When it says to me, that's not true, because in that scenario, Rav Kahana did not give the original owner 4 zuzim and then take back 8. That should be considered interest. He paid for flax, and then the flax went up in price. Migzal Gazlua, because if he had already bought it, then they got robbed. Right? If he bought it and then they sold it without his permission, that'd be considered he robbed it. If you resold someone else's item they bought, that's considered robbing him. Utanana Mishnah says, you have to pay the time of the robbery. You have to pay only the original price, not the new price. Therefore, it's not considered a payment of interest, because then they were never a loan in the first place. Amri, we say Hatam Amana Have. Over there is referring to a case of trust, meaning Rav Kahana fronted the money for future flax. But Rav Kahana did not do a kinyan on the flax. And therefore Rav goes according to Pin. Rav says that you could do a trust for future delivery of fruits, but you can't do it for cash, meaning you could do it for produce, but you can't do it for cash because cash looks like interest, but produce does not. And therefore, over here, it didn't count.